can try and win championships, and that's what it's all about. When you look from the outside and you watch this team, I know we're going to have a real good, solid hockey team this year.
Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Eric Wilson. And today we're going to be talking about the WLC and some of these Rangers players that took home the gold. Of course, some of these prospects that we think could potentially sneak their way into the Rangers lineup this year, though that's definitely debatable. But we're going to go ahead, dive into these performances over in this tournament and talk about some of these Rangers prospects, how they performed, and what we see their futures and their potential to be with the Rangers coming up in the near future. But before we dive into all of that, Eric, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. The World Juniors is always something very fun to watch in hockey, but even more exciting than that, just earlier today, we hit 500 subscribers on YouTube. So thanks to you guys for subscribing. If you're watching and you haven't subscribed, make sure to do it, man. It's free. Like, why not? Help us hit 1,000. That's our new goal for now. But very exciting news, and I'm ready to keep talking Rangers.
Yes, much appreciated. We're going to be opening up the community page on this channel really soon. Get you all interacting with us. Get a little bit more personal, a little more exclusive between us and all of you awesome fans who tune in to Fireside Rangers. And of course, we're here to provide you with all of the Rangers news, rumors, and updates right here on Fireside Rangers from now till forever. But let's go ahead and dive into these New York Rangers who took gold at the WJC. Let's first of all go ahead and discuss Brennan Othmann. This is a player that we've discussed quite a bit on the channel recently, Eric. He's a prospect for the Rangers that's looking like one of the top prospects in the NHL right now in all of hockey, and we think that he could potentially have somewhat of an impact with the Rangers in this upcoming 2022-23 season. Now, we've discussed how he can maybe even see his way into the bottom six of the lineup. But, of course, we want to discuss, his performance in the WJC and just what we project him to be in the future with the Rangers. But taking a look at it, he and Will Cuylle played and were used sparingly by head coach Dave Cameron. They each received only a little over 10 minutes of ice time in the WJC final. It was a thrilling 3-2 overtime win by Canada over Finland. And these Rangers players did play a little bit, but really not too much. And so, Eric, I'm kind of curious to hear what you think, with Brennan Othmann and Will Cuylle playing in this game, but sparingly, should that indicate that they're probably not ready to find their way into an NHL lineup just yet?
I wouldn't say that necessarily because, even though they were used sparingly, they didn't get that much ice time. Brennan Othmann still put up 6 points in 6 games throughout the World Juniors. So, it's even more impressive, in my opinion, where you're not playing that much and you're still putting up a point per game in this very elite tournament. And, we've said it a couple times, could he make the lineup? Will he be held off for a little while? And I've always said, it's up in the air. It really depends on how he plays in the World Juniors and the preseason. And I think he proved himself during the World Juniors. So, if he has a good preseason, I would say more likely than not, we were probably going to see him in the lineup at some point this season in a bottom 6 role.
Yeah, that's totally possible. He's progressing really nicely. I'm loving the development out of Brennan Othmann right now, and I do think there is a really solid chance of him cracking the lineup at some point this season. But, of course, as Eric mentioned, 6 games played, 2 goals, 4 assists, total of 6 points, a point per game. Will Cuylle, not as impressive, but still rather impressive with 7 games played, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points in total. What are your impressions of Will Cuylle? What are your thoughts on him? And do you think that he also could have a realistic shot at entering the lineup? Or are you thinking Brennan Othmann is kind of the only prospect right now that's just really standing out with that opportunity?
I think currently, never say never. There's always the chance with injuries and players underperforming that maybe Will Cuylle could slip into the 4th line at some point later on in the season. I definitely don't think we'll see him starting the regular season. That's definitely a possibility only for Brennan Othmann right now. But, 4 points in 7 games is still really impressive. So, like I said, who knows what can happen? Preseason might roll around and we might see him play just phenomenally, and maybe he'll outplay Brennan Othmann and slip into the lineup. So who knows really what's going to happen? I'm not a fortune teller, but based on what I've seen so far, I would say Brennan Othmann's our number 1 prospect, and I think we might be able to see him in the lineup. Will Cuylle, maybe another year or 2.
Yeah, I got to say, I totally agree with that. But there is another prospect that we're going to dive into just now. And this is someone who's super interesting to me. Wasn't really on my radar, but Dylan Durand is how I think you pronounce his name. Tried to figure it out. Couldn't find an interview where they explicitly said his name. Just kept calling him the Rangers prospect goalkeeper. So let's just talk about him real quick because he had a very, very solid performance in the juniors. So star for the Rangers prospects was goalie Dylan Durand, as he stopped 29 of 31 shots for Canada. He finished the tournament with a perfect 6-0 record to go along with a 1.98 goals average allowed and a .925 save percentage. A super impressive 6-game performance out of the Rangers prospect. Eric, what are your thoughts on Durand, and do you think that this is a player that could potentially find his way into a backup role for Igor Shesterkin in the near future?
I mean, I won't lie. Before this tournament, I really didn't know much about this prospect. It's really just these stats that we're looking at now that gives me my very first impression. But you look at like a 6-0 record, 1.98 GAA, and a 925 save percentage. Those numbers are like relatively like similar to stats that Igor puts up during the regular season. And like, I know, don't come at me in the comments, I know that the World Juniors isn't the NHL. It might be a little bit easier, but still, like, those are very impressive numbers. If I see him backing up Igor Shesterkin, definitely not anytime soon. We have Halak lined up for now. Igor's definitely going to be number one for the foreseeable future. But, maybe it's like a third string goalie. Who knows? In a couple of years, Halak gets old and we need a new backup to come in. If Durand's ready, then I don't see why not if he keeps up play like this.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of how I feel as well. We have Halak. We just signed him this offseason. That's someone that Eric and I pointed out way before free agency even began and said Yaroslav Halak might be a perfect fit for the Rangers. Nice veteran presence that can go in there, be a backup, play in reserve of Igor Shesterkin when he needs to. And we really like that signing. But we also are cognizant of the fact that Halak is a very old player. He's not a long-term solution at the backup goalie position. He'll be a goaltender for a year or two, and that's kind of just about it. So I do think it's kind of exciting, though, to know that the Rangers are developing a prospect that could potentially find their way into the lineup as the backup goalie or goaltender one day. So, of course, just speaking on Dylan Durand, he is 6'1", 181 pounds. He was drafted in 103rd overall in the 2020 NHL entry draft, and he was a 4th-round pick. Had, again, like we said, really solid performance here with a 1.98 goals average allowed and a perfect 6-0 record. And we also have a quote from Durand right here. Quote, "The puck went up and over me, then I took back, and Mac just pulled it off the line. Then we go down and score. Oh my God, what a feeling!" I guess he's just really excited. I mean, there's not really too much substance in that.
Did you see that play that he's referring to?
I did not see that play that he's referring to.
I mean, for those who didn't see it, it was like really crazy. Like Finland shot the puck and was about to win, and McTavish knocked it out of the air and saved the game. So it was really cool. And the McTavish isn't a Rangers prospect, but props to him. That was might be one of the coolest plays I've ever seen. I'll show you after we're done.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching that. And I'm looking forward to really just reviewing all the highlights from the Rangers prospects. We're going to go ahead and look into some of those clips so we can, continue to discuss these guys as we move towards the preseason. The preseason is where we're really going to get a good look at all these guys. Dylan Durand, Brennan Othmann, Will Cuylle. We'll get a good look at all these guys, especially with training camp right around the corner. Definitely less than a month away. I want to say it's like three weeks away until training camp kicks off. So I'm super excited for that. I know it kind of coincides a little bit with the start of the NFL regular season. So sports are almost back in full swing, which is super, super exciting. I know many of you are probably Giants fans as well. I'm going to do a shameless plug right now for Fireside Giants. In case you haven't heard of that, go ahead and search that on YouTube as well. But we have a lot of really interesting Rangers prospects we're developing. Of course, you're going to have to help me with the pronunciation on this name, Eric. I want to say it's Kale
if I had to guess, I would say Kalle Väisänen.
Kalle Väisänen played a healthy 19 minutes and 35 seconds and once again was extremely strong defensively to win silver with Finland against Canada. So, there are a lot of Rangers prospects here that we see a decent amount of potential in, and I'm definitely getting excited for the training camp, for the preseason, and of course ramping up to the regular season in the beginning of October. I think that this is going to be a huge year for the Rangers. All the moves that they made this offseason, just taking a look at it, I do think this is a new and improved team, a new and improved lineup for the Rangers, and I see the potential being Stanley Cup, contenders. So, Eric, what are your final thoughts before we wrap this up on the prospects that played through the WJC and, just kind of your projections for these guys as we look ahead to the regular season?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I know a lot about the Rangers' current lineup and our history and stuff, but when it really comes to our future prospects, I'm not too well versed in all these people. So a lot of these names that we've been discussing and looking at stats I'm looking at them for the first time. But I can't lie, looking at it, I do see a lot of potential for the future. I do think that the Rangers have one of the most underrated prospect pools in the entire league. I know everyone was like publicly known as being very good back when we had like Lafreniere and Kakko as our prospects, but they've moved up into the lineup full time. They don't really talk about the Rangers' future that much now since we're already good, but just like seeing these stats, seeing these names, when it comes to the future, I'm very impressed and I'm not worried whatsoever. I think we're going to be really good. We already have a good lineup, and knowing that we have more good players on the way, that just makes me even happier to see as a Rangers fan.
Yeah, I think that the Rangers have a rock solid scouting department. They keep finding young talent that's able to make an impact very early on. Of course, we're talking about the kid line that helped propel us into the Eastern Conference Finals this past season. And I just think there's a lot of solid prospects on the Rangers currently. And if you look at the last 5 years or so, there's been a real consistent turnout of solid prospects turning into solid players on the Rangers lines. And I think that's a trend that we should expect to continue. And I think it's really the formula for having long-term built success in the NHL. Depth is everything, and having young guys that can turn into depth and get that experience and then one day turn into starters and maybe even move up into the top six. I mean, that's everything for the Rangers right now. So I think that's kind of the way that we're moving now, because if you take a look at the Rangers, not a lot of salary cap space. We're really strapped for cash. There's no moves to make any signings before the regular season. Really, whatever the Rangers do, it's going to be very bottom of the roster, bottom of the lineup, and it's really just going to involve their prospects more than anything. So it's important knowing that we're strapped for cash for the foreseeable future, the next few years, completely strapped for cash as we pay some of these younger guys who need new contracts. The important thing is for the Rangers, continue to develop that young talent like the Brennan Othmanns of the world, the Will Cuylles of the world, continue to develop that so that one day when these, the salary cap space is still just completely used up, well, we can get some of these young guys in there to start to develop, maybe even turn into trade pieces one day, free up some cap space that way, trade some guys because we got young guys coming in. But really just what I'm trying to say is that I think the development program from the Rangers right now is really solid with these young guys, and I'm excited to see what the future of the Rangers lineup looks like. But you got any last thoughts before we wrap this one up?
I think that pretty much covers everything. Just like I said, future's bright, and to the fans, thank you for everything.
Yeah, thanks for the 500 subs. We're only getting started. I mean, we started this just a little while ago, kicked off with school recently, and it's been a little hectic, but, it's also the dead part of the offseason. Once we get into that training camp time period, preseason time period, regular season time period, you guys should expect to see your sub boxes explode with Fireside Rangers content. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode, of course. Comment down below, what are your thoughts on all of these Rangers prospects, and what do you think their potential is for the upcoming season and beyond? And of course, make sure to subscribe if you're new to this channel. We're building something special. Make sure to ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Rangers.
Let's go Rangers. Doing a normal one today.
He shoots. He's